I'm not hearing any opening music today.
Oh, well.
We don't have any.
Well, we do, but they didn't start it because it's last-minute panics, as always.
Last-minute panic.
It's like, I'm trying to get above my name.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Last Minute Panic. And I'm awfully dark.
Oh, well.
What's up with that? I think camera 3 is awfully dark.
Oh, well.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. As usual, last-minute craziness, trying to get everything done. We've got a huge crew today, and everybody knows what they're doing, but we always run into
except us.
Anyway. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. This show is brought to you by the atheist community of Austin. I'm your host, Jeff D. Our co-host is Martin Wagner, and our special guest today is John Koontz, co-chair of the atheist community of Austin. Hi, John.
Thanks.
We're live August 27, 2000 CE. The Atheist Community of Austin is a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday morning at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop, 307 West 5th Street at 10:30 a.m. right after this show, except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. in the Longhorn Room of Fur's Cafeteria at North Cross Mall. The next lecture will be on September 3. The speaker will be Dr. Rory Coker of the Department of Physics at UT. He'll be giving a talk entitled Fake Science, Anti-Science, and Pseudoscience. On October 1, the speaker will be Ray Mooney of UT's Department of Computer Science. His topic is Artificial Intelligence, Minds Without Mysticism. The Godless Gamers meet every Monday night at 7:30 at the home of Vic Farrow. And for more information, you can call our voicemail at 371-2911 or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org. This show can still be seen on Spring.net.
Oh, it can.
Amanda told me that we were still there last week, though she wasn't able to get the sound to work. So, what the heck, folks? Give it a shot. Tell your faraway friends and loved ones and people around the area that don't get cable that if they want to see our show, they can try setting their browser to Spring.net and see what they get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't be any more technically messed up than we are here, so.
Oh, they could.
Well.
Let me go quick through my my news items. According to StopDrLaura.com, the website, the protest against the airing of the Dr. Laura Schlesinger show on KITV at Channel 42 took place yesterday. And I apologize to everyone for not being up to date on that. I should have announced last week that it was going to be then, and I lost track. If anyone out there attended the protest or knows about what went down there, please give us a call. That website, again, was www.stopdrlaura.com. Reminding everyone once again of our We Don't Hate You, We Just Think You're Wrong buttons. If you see Martin or I in public, come on up and say you watch the show and we'll offer you a button. There will be an atheist gathering in Fort Worth on September 10. You can find more information at www.atheists.org. The Metroplex Atheists, which are the guys that produced the Atheist book covers as a response to the Ten Commandments book covers up in Dallas, will be there. And there may be book covers available for people trying to get one of those.
And our own Rowan Weiner is going to be speaking
Our own Rowan Weiner will be
twice.
speaking there. That's correct.
Yeah, I have two.
Twice.
Yeah, and a couple of very interesting. You can go to www.metroplexatheists.org and find out some details.
That's right.
About
they also have stuff about the Cowtown Regional Atheist Meet.
Cram.
Yeah. The Center for Inquiry, once again, it's almost time now. I keep reading this over and over again. Scientific Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal and the Council for Secular Humanism will be offering a class entitled The Scientific Examination of the Bible, Paul, Jesus, and the Facts at the Omni Austin Hotel South Park on September 22 to 24 of this year. There was an admission price and a banquet. You can get more information at their website, which is www.scicop.org, C-S-I-C-O-P. AIDS Walk Austin will take place on October 15, starting from Waterloo Park. For more information, call 452-WALK or visit AIDSWalkAustin.org.
Are we going to do that?
I've got a flyer I'm going to be taking to the ACA meeting this morning and seeing if we can drum up an ACA contingent to march in that march.
Yeah, the Safe Hulk was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun doing those marches. Any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. can be reported to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. Please remember to include as many details as possible and a news source where applicable. Incidents will be reported to participating national and local non-theist organizations who have agreed to distribute press releases regarding the reported subject matter. And that's what I got. Let's go to the news.
Right.
I have to do sound effects since Arlo's out of town again and won't be back till next week.
Oh, that's the other skull.
It also explains
okay, never mind.
why we have insufficient music.
Okay, this isn't my skull.
No.
There we go. That's
that would be yours in your
this
head.
Is mine. As you can see, we haven't evolved that much. Well, yes, news this morning. Well, of course, the big news
you don't
being
need glasses anymore.
That's true. That's true.
And go ahead.
Yeah, we don't need the Christians to butcher evolution. We can do it ourselves.
Yeah. There we go. Well, me and my pal here. Well, let's see. What is going on in the world? Well, of course, as you mentioned, the big news are, at least in our neck of the woods, is the atheist book covers.
Yeah.
American atheists and Metroplex atheists, Dallas Metroplex atheists, in response to the Ten Commandments book covers, which is, as they sort of, cutely put it, it's like, okay, well, here's the school boards are okaying book covers that give instructions on how to treat your slaves and that, women are the property of their husbands.
Actually, on the other what's interesting is that the Ten Commandments book covers that this Christian group distributed has deleted the reference to your wife as part of your property, even though that's in the Bible, and has deleted the reference to slavery from the other commandment. So it is a expurgated version of the Ten Commandments.
They're expurgating their own
They're expurgating their own God's commandments.
I wonder what they're
Amazing.
Yeah, interesting. Well, anyway, in response to those, the Ten Commandments book covers, the Metroplex Atheists submitted the atheist book covers, which give just a long list of quotes. There's Madeline Murray O'Hare's definition of atheism, which is interesting, as well as just many quotes from John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, Thomas Paine, just historical figures all throughout U.S. history, mostly presidents, about the role of religion in government and what have you, and so on and so forth. They're really excellent book covers. If you go to metroplexatheist.org, you can see them.
You can see them.
Yes. And see them there, and you can even contact them.
You're done.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, they're not they don't cost money.
It doesn't matter if they cost much.
Oh, I see.
Cannot.
Well, no, they don't cost anything.
No, that's not correct.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay. Well, anyway, you can see them there. Okay. Just have a look at them, see what they look like. But what happened was the school board initially said, no, we can't have this. Oh, you bad, evil atheists.
Sure.
And then they immediately had to do an about face when they're like, well, actually, sort of, and fair is fair, and we kind of got to.
And especially since the argument given by the religious group that was pushing the book covers was that, oh, well, we can do this because it's not the school doing it. We're an outside organization just donating them. And so it's freedom of speech.
But there was like
freedom of speech, there's freedom of speech for us atheists too.
Right. And they had to kind of look at the fact that I think one of their school board members was showing up to meetings like wearing his priest's collar and things like that. And so they kind of realized that they might get egg on their face if they didn't allow this. So they did, and they're a go. So that's really great, and they're available for everyone. So in other news, science news, it does look now as if the Jovian moon of Europa has a big ocean. Magnetic readings of Europa, a moon of Jupiter, strongly suggest that it has an ocean of liquid water covered by ice, a finding that strengthens the possibility for the presence of life, experts say. This is not absolute proof that there is a salty ocean there. The evidence is indirect, but nobody has been able to come up with another sensible explanation. Many experts consider Europa and Mars as the most likely places to find life in the solar system beyond the Earth. Earlier studies of Europa showed that it was covered with a thick layer of ice. Planetary experts had suggested that there might be liquid water beneath the ice, but until now there was little evidence to support that idea. A magnetometer was used to take readings while the Galileo spacecraft passed close to Europa last January. The pattern, evidently, of the moon's internal magnetic field was consistent with the presence of an ocean on the Jovian satellite. It suggests a body of liquid water at least 4.5 miles deep, covered with ice that could be 0.5 mile to 6 miles thick. That's pretty fascinating. So, anyway, so we'll have to see what is really discovered as more studies are done.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a quick update Rapture report.
Yay.
Last week I read about 2 predictions that were supposed to come due that last Sunday. And of course we had to consider them pending because the day wasn't over yet. But I can now gleefully report that the Battle of Armageddon did not take place last Sunday, according to a nitwit on the web by the name of Ephraim, so we can mark that failed. And according to another nitwit named Marilyn Adji, the Rapture also did not take place on August 20. Now,
Marilyn, renew your prescription, please.
that was her 10th Rapture prediction.
Yes.
The same lady, according to the website where I get my my compilation of various Rapture reports. Now,
Well, I guess they thought people had been raptured last week, but it turned out they were all just watching that last episode of Survivors. So.
so is that where all those people that left the island went?
They all just sort of, yeah.
Okay. Now, to keep your eyes peeled, next Saturday, September 2nd, is the end of the Jewish year 5760. Jerry Greeno seems to think that this will be the absolute final year of the present age. This conclusion is based on a number of less than impressive factors, including some wonderful Bible codes that he found.
I see.
So that is not marked failed yet, but it is soon to be failed.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that. Now, John,
Hi.
what do you got?
Well, I wanted to say a couple things, basically kind of general things about Atheist Community of Austin. There's a lot of very exciting things going on in our community. We're in the middle of a pledge drive. I mean, not pledge drive, what am I saying? Membership drive.
It's like, what are we on,
That would be
Trinity?
public television.
Wait a minute, I'm not getting any money out of this.
It's like,
And it's real exciting to see a lot of new people showing up at the bagel shop.
Yeah.
We had a number of people showing up, and not only showing up, but also taking on some of the responsibilities of keeping this organization going. Also, we had one of our members, Michelle, had to move, and we had a number of people that came out yesterday to help her out and help her move. So kind of putting the C in community there, in Atheist Community of Austin, by helping each other out and pulling together when somebody needs some assistance. So thank you to everybody who came out to help out with Michelle's move yesterday.
Cool.
Other than that, I guess one other thing that maybe people don't pick up on who aren't up on atheism and don't understand, a lot of the things that you were reading on the news things come from a number of different atheist and freethought and humanist organizations. And I think it's real exciting that in our organization, we're not afraid to put in a plug for an American Atheist event or a Council for Secular Humanism event or whatever there is out there. And I think that's real exciting and real important and something real positive about our group that we do.
Yeah.
I brought in a few of our ancestors here, hoping that maybe some of the people who are clueless about their origins.
Our ancestors were apparently much hipper than I thought they were.
Yeah.
Check out the...
Well, yeah.
Can we get a close-up on either of them?
There's no point in being out there in the savannah scavenging for food without a decent pair of sunglasses.
yeah. Hello, I brought my sunblock.
All right, apparently we're not going to get
We're not
close-up.
going to
All
get
right.
close up on
Yeah,
them. That's fine.
Oh, well, that's the other guy.
And you have an article about some comments from Prince Charles of England, noted scientist that he is.
That's right. And I think this is interesting for a couple reasons. Basically, this is from Freethought Today, the publication of Freedom from Religion Foundation. And I'm not going to take
He's
time.
like,
That is disturbing. I'm sorry. Sorry, didn't mean to frighten anyone. Go ahead.
That's why he had the glasses
He's had a
on,
rough
Jeff.
night.
You didn't want to scare the viewers.
Okay.
There you go. All right.
that.
We're back
You
on
could have
track.
taken little ping pong balls out.
Yeah, those doggone 2001
I think my
monoliths, they
kid
just
put 'em
sort of
in there.
blow your eyeballs out. And like,
Anyway,
Man.
this is in England going on in the newspaper. It looks like Prince Charles was spouting off about that our inability to accept the existence of a guiding hand in nature has led to our problems in the environment, and Richard Dawkins, slamming him on that. And of course, one of the things I think that was never mentioned in this that's important is that if it were not for free thought and humanistic sort of ideas and atheistic sort of ideas, we never would have gotten away from the idea that kings and princes like Prince Charles have rule by divine right.
yeah.
And so when Richard Dawkins writes into the one of the newspapers in England, the Guardian Observer, with a comment and slamming something that Prince Charles said, there was a time when that would have been enough right there. He would have been dragged off and burned at the stake. And anybody who's reading this or read this in England who thought, hey, this is interesting, we have this debate going on, ought to realize that it's because we got away from this divine rule nonsense and this idea that gods control the universe that we could even have this discussion at all. So I thought that was kind of
Free
interesting.
exchange of ideas. It's
Very
not
cool.
something that
Absolutely.
dogmatic religions encourage.
We've got some callers on the line.
Let's take some.
Shall we take the calls?
We need to
okay.
let them know
Let's
about
go first to Matt. Matt?
Yeah.
Morning, Matt.
Good morning. Hey, first I wanted to say, this is not what I was going to say, but in reference to what you guys were just talking about, the reason that you can sit there and have that conversation is not because we don't have divine right of kings anymore.
In
other words,
why is it?
It's simply because we have freedom of speech.
And where did freedom of speech come from?
Constitution.
And our
But the-
Constitution
but the-
came
but
from
the idea of it-
a government of, by, and for the people rather than of, by, and for a ruling class that claimed its authority from a god.
Right, but a ruling class that claimed its authority from a god could grant various rights, which they often did, and oftentimes, for instance, during the Renaissance, people
Only
were
if
free
they
to talk
felt
about
like
a lot
it,
of different
not
things.
whether,
I
okay.
got something to say about it. I don't need anybody to grant me rights. I have rights, I have rights just because I'm here. I don't need any ruling class to grant them because they deign to grant me rights.
Right.
Because they got some little voice in their head telling them, oh, it's okay to let John say such and such on public, on cable access.
I don't. Okay, I'm just saying that the reason that we have freedom of speech is not because we don't have divine right of kings.
Not directly, but
No.
those,
No, not directly.
Right.
Right.
but both of those
It is-
things are
there
expressions
has
of
been a
the growing
continuing-
understanding in the world
Right.
that a fair government is one where everybody has representation and it's not reserved to a privileged class.
But everybody
a
doesn't-
privileged class that claimed its authority
Okay.
from a supernatural power.
Right.
Okay.
But we don't, and everybody doesn't have representation in our society, and most people believe that we still have somewhat of a ruling class as well.
Well, we don't need to get into a debate about that. Be that as it may, the fact is that we don't have kings, and we certainly don't agree that kings get their right to rule from any supernatural forces.
Right.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
say something. Can I interject something here? And that is, no, I wasn't trying to claim that just because we got rid of divine right of kings that solved all our problems, because obviously it hasn't. And I don't disagree that you can see that we have a ruling class maybe made up of people who are very rich and powerful. I'm not arguing that. My point is that one of the most important things we ever did as a species was get rid of this whole divine right nonsense, and in our country have a constitution where we have the rule that supposedly comes from the people. I'm not saying it's
actually, in the
perfect.
Constitution, doesn't it say that we're born with inalienable rights?
That's the Declaration
That's
of
the
Independence.
Declaration of Independence you're talking about.
Okay.
Inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's
Well,
from the Declaration of
the
Independence.
Declaration of Independence is pretty important to the founding of this country as well.
But it's
Sure,
not a
but
legal document.
it's not a founding document. It was very important. That's true.
Well, where do our rights come from then?
From ourselves, from we the people. Well,
Okay.
that's where they're supposed to come from. I'm not going to argue that they always, that always works out well, because sometimes, obviously, things don't work out. But
But that's the
ideally,
concept.
that's the idea.
You
Okay,
said
good
you
answer.
had a different point that
Yeah,
was
what was
why
your
you
other
called. Let's hear that one.
Well, I was going to say, are you familiar with Roger Penrose?
Yeah.
What do you think about his idea that the laws of physics, as we know them, are insufficient to account for consciousness?
That is not what he says. He thinks that a different law of physics, he thinks that quantum effects are involved in consciousness.
No, now,
but quantum
now
effects are not.
book.
No, wait a minute.
Okay.
I know all about this.
Okay.
Quantum effects are part of the laws of physics. They're not
Right.
some magical extra thing.
No, I don't think
He's
they are. I
not.
know what
He's not.
quantum physics
He's
are.
not referring to any kind of supernatural anything.
No, I know. I didn't say he was referring to. I don't.
Okay. All right.
What I said is he believes that quantum physics actually are not sufficient to account
He
for
does.
consciousness.
If he has changed his mind on this, this is news to me.
Well, it
his
was-
whole thing was he thought that
he thinks quantum effects are involved.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. But he still believes that a computer operating along the lines of quantum physics, making use of, whatever effects of quantum physics, still wouldn't be able to generate, for instance, the laws of mathematics.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Right.
As far as I know, he's not a neurologist. And
No,
as
he's
far
not a
as I know,
neurologist.
my understanding is that people in the field who actually study brains
Right.
largely think that he's full of it.
Well, do you know who Candace Pert is?
No.
Candace Pert is one of the most well-known neurologists in the world. In fact, I think she's head of one of the government...
Candace Pert?
Candace Pert, yeah.
P-E-R-T?
Yeah, you'll find out who she is real quick if you look her up.
I will do that.
She's... Well, I would say she's definitely the most famous neurologist in the world.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm just-
that strikes me as very strange since I try to keep my...
Can
I
you
try to
name
keep
another
up to date
neurologist?
on what's going on in science. But anyway, go on.
Can you
Make
name
your
a
point.
neurologist?
Go on with your claim.
Make your point.
Okay. Well, she believes that she's not any specific religion, but she said that she did believe that the idea of the patterns, that thought was basically made up of pattern, and the idea that those patterns would continue after death just made a lot of sense to her.
Then she's an idiot, because any neurologist who has the slightest grasp of their field
Right.
knows that what happens in a brain only happens because there's a brain there.
Right.
You can't get neurons firing, you can't get neural pathways being formed to develop memories if you don't have neurons.
No.
Once the brain is gone, nothing is going on.
Right,
If she
but-
says this, she's an idiot.
Okay, but what
Okay.
she's saying is...
And I'll look her up.
Okay, but what she's saying is that not that you can get neurons firing from nothing,
Yeah.
but that it's the pattern.
What are those
of the
patterns
neuron-
embodied in then?
Let me finish.
Okay.
In other words, there are a lot of people like that I think you guys would probably respect who think that we might be able to replicate human thought with a computer. Now,
Yeah.
okay, well, if we do, there's no neuron. We're not going to do it with neurons, probably.
Sure.
Okay, so...
So
what
my
she's
question to you...
So what... No, let me finish.
Yeah.
So what she's saying is...
Yeah.
That it's not the neurons, but it's the specific patterns which
Sure.
contain the intelligence, and therefore that those patterns could continue outside the neurons. If that made sense to her.
Okay,
But you
and
said
what
she's an idiot, I understand.
what is she proposing as the medium in which those patterns will continue?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, if all she's saying is that in theory we could say run a human consciousness on some processor other than a brain.
No, that's not all she's saying. She's saying the idea that human awareness would continue after death.
But
Unless she's
how?
proposing that,
Okay, well-
okay, over here is the processor
All right.
we're going to be running on now,
Okay.
right? Over here's the processor that's going to have that pattern in it that's going to reproduce those functions
Yeah.
that the brain produced, right?
Right.
Unless she's saying what that is, she's just making shit up.
Okay.
Thanks
well,
very
I
much
don't-
for your call. We got to move on. We have, I should have
One more
mentioned this
thing.
before.
One more thing. I have an answer to a possible answer to your question.
Just a moment. We have a only 1 hour show today because every fourth Sunday there's a class that starts here in the studio half an hour earlier than we normally end. So go ahead and make your last point, and we got to move on.
Okay. Have you ever heard of morphic resonance?
Who?
Morphic resonance.
Morphic resonance.
Yeah.
No,
No, what's that?
Morphic resonance is a theory about how the known laws of physics came into existence and about how it's just a physical theory.
Okay. Well, we'll look it up and maybe have something to say
Okay,
about
well,
it
that's
next
one
week.
possibility for where the patterns of thought would continue after the neurons weren't there. People who believe in morphic resonance believe that the operation of the neurons is actually a reflection of a deeper order, which is morphic resonance, which takes place across space and time. It's completely non-local.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for your call.
Sure.
Bye. Yeah. And they're nitwits.
That reminds me, Jeff.
That was our call. That last caller was on line 1.
Yes, that was
okay.
Matt.
Right. So we're going to line 2. Yes.
How did the science fiction thing go last week? Because I don't know why I suddenly thought of science fiction.
Armadillo Con.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I brought some flyers there. I left them on the table, and when it was all over, I went and picked up the ones that were left, and I didn't bother to check to see if any had been taken. It was the last day of the show. Probably nothing happened. Let's go on to caller 2.
Don.
Don?
Yeah, this is me again.
Hi, Don. Can you speak up a little?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I wondered if you read where the religious right is trying to get around the praying at football games.
Yes, we have.
I hit their website and I sent a response, and where they encourage you to send in responses, and I haven't heard anything back.
Oh, they're not going to call back.
Well, usually they do try to write you back if you give a non-Christian point of view and try to convert you and make you see the error of your ways, but I've heard not a thing back from these no pray, no play folks.
So. Oh, is that right?
Yeah, in case anybody out there doesn't know what's going on, in response to the Supreme Court decision that schools may not get involved in selecting a student to read prayers to a captive audience at a school-sponsored event, this group called No Pray, No Play has started up, and what they want to do is organize spontaneous prayers up in the stands before school football events. And to a certain extent, of course, they are legally free to do so, to a certain extent. Okay, because then it really is just people outside the school doing stuff. It's incredibly rude for them to take their majority in the schools where they are in a majority and force their religion on everyone. I mean, you wouldn't, for example, we wouldn't tolerate it if Christians were to Shanghai people on the street and drag them into a church to experience church. But here they are, Shanghaiing a bunch of people who are there for a different reason to expose them to prayers against their own wishes. But to a certain extent, it's legal.
Yeah.
But what appalled me about the website was their little comment to non-Christians.
Statement to non-Christians.
Statement to non-Christians, which says, in effect, oh, yes, we know how frustrating this is going to be for you because we've had to sit here and listen to so many things that we don't believe. So you're just going to have to sit there and be quiet and take it, or else, like, leave this bleachers while we take them over and do our prayer.
They go on this whole long trip about how understanding and tolerant they are, you know, and then they go on to say, yeah, but if you don't like prayers, show up late to the game.
Guess what, dudes?
Yeah.
We're not going to remain silent. I guarantee you, very shortly, there will be an organization that will counter-protest right after they do their prayer. And because if that's the way they want it, if they want to turn the bleachers before school football games into a shouting match between opposing points of view, why, that is exactly what it can turn into. They do not get to say that, oh, well, we're going to take them over and have our message, and you're just going to have to take it.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. If it's freedom of speech, if it's a freedom of speech issue, you're going to see freedom of speech.
Yeah. And if they're...
As soon as somebody does something, they're going to start crying like they always do.
Of course.
Yeah, like, we're the victims.
Yeah, they're being victimized.
Yeah.
And I think that it won't be
the
very
victim
long
card.
before they do cross the line into doing something illegal, because the evangelical fundy types who get into this stuff have no respect for the laws of our nation.
Even
They
though
can't,
they claim to.
because their book, their trashy Bible, and their silly made-up God basically tells them to not have any respect for the laws of the nation and only honor it and respect it. That's the point of the Ten Commandments. Commandment number 1, have no other gods before the big God that they believe in. That means, if it comes down to it, ignore what the Supreme Court says, or ignore what the rest of the people in the country have to obey as laws.
Yeah, it's what they're
And
saying.
they have to do it. That's what their religion tells them to do.
You know, but this whole point that, well, there's stuff out there that offends us that we're exposed to all the time, so I guess it's our turn to offend you, and that makes everything fair. Well, no, of course not. But another point is, it's like there's no more justification for having an organized thing that you know is going to offend lots of people, like, you know, getting a bunch of folks to say the Lord's Prayer before a football game, which is pointless. I mean, does it influence the game? I mean, why do it? Why do it unless you're like making a political statement?
Because
it's a political statement.
They could, and they're being denied, and they're a bunch of whining babies.
Yeah,
they're a bunch of whining babies that they found out they couldn't get their way, and they go, wah wah, boo hoo hoo.
Yeah.
We want to pray at football games now. We suddenly want to pray at them so much more than we ever did before that now we'd have to have a special outside organization to get it to happen spontaneously.
And there's nothing wrong with, if they want to pray before the game, pray before the game, but there's no reason to deliberately do it in such a way that you're going to disturb the people sitting next to you who might not want to pray.
And Martin, I've got this urge.
What if
football in their church?
Well, what if we want to, what if a bunch of like crazy people decide to get together and have an organized thing before the football game where hundreds of them stood up and shouted the F word as loud as they could 100 times in a row.
There are laws.
And if anyone was offended by that, well, we're sorry. Well, I don't see that there's that much difference.
Well, there are laws, though, that said against, like, public profanity.
Okay, well, okay, maybe not public profanity.
But
how about
what I'd like to see, I would like to see an organization, for example, we could call it Stand to Reason. We could have T-shirts.
You've already got it prepared.
And what you do is, after the prayer, somebody stands up with a megaphone and said, "Would all those people who didn't stand up who didn't just pray, please stand up and make your presence known?" Right? And we'd have an opportunity for people to notice that, oh my gosh, this prayer doesn't reflect the wishes of everybody up in the stands. There are people that don't agree with it for a wide variety of reasons.
You know, I got a new Playboy, and they have a Monopoly card in there. Instead of get out of jail free, get out of hell free. And I just read it. There's a website that has it, and they'll send it to you. And it's really funny. But another subject I was going to get on is the Virgin Mary in Georgetown in the theater, in the church is crying blood.
No, I hadn't heard of this one. Is this a new one?
It's in the paper today.
Oh, boy.
They took it out of this apartment here in Austin and took it up to Georgetown. But the diocese said that they would investigate it. It's in a cage, in a plastic thing, and everybody's going up, and people's touching it, and they said vibrations come out of it, and blood coming out of their eyes. It's in this morning's paper.
It's in Georgetown, huh?
Yeah, it's in Georgetown.
I think we need to get a contingent up there to go check it out.
Yeah, we should send some folks up there, our roving reporters.
Oh, boy.
But that was that's another thing. It's been in the paper twice. It was yesterday and today. And it's on the front page.
Okay.
Belief in magic.
Thanks, Don. We'll look into that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thanks for your call. Bye-bye. Want to remind everyone that at 10:30, shortly after the show this morning, the Atheist Community of Austin will be meeting at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop like we do just about every week. And if you're an atheist or an atheist-friendly person and want to come down to socialize, that's a great place to do it. It is not a place for Christians to come and try to convert us. If you want to try to tell us why we should believe in God, you can do that right here on our show, if you absolutely must. Let's go to
Thomas.
Yeah.
Hi, Thomas.
I heard you guys earlier were talking about, somebody mentioned something about quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
And I just think that, I know...
What happened? We lost
Sorry,
Tom.
we lost the audio. What's up?
Wait a minute. No. Okay, there you are.
You're back. Sorry about that. We had a glitch in the studio.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you for a second there.
Well, I studied classical type physics in college, but I've stayed up to date on most of the quantum mechanics, and I read a lot of books about it. And I think it's interesting. The way it's usually put forth is that quantum mechanics is the most complete set of physical laws, and that so far every way that we've been able to test them has been successful. And I think that it's interesting to look at the people who came up with quantum mechanics and the people who continue to pioneer it and win Nobel Prizes and that sort of thing, their belief systems, since, you know, they're so familiar with what the limitations of the physical world are, and a lot of them believe in, for instance, like God and things like that.
Ooh,
and
I fear
some
that
of it,
you are mistaken.
A few of them even believe in paranormal type phenomena.
Yeah, I fear that you are mistaken. There are a lot of people.
Have you heard of Brian Josephson? He's one of the youngest people ever to win the Nobel Prize. He won it in the 1970s for building a new type of superconductor. He says that the evidence in favor of paranormal is overwhelming.
I will look that up.
Okay.
But
Specifically, what?
I would point out that somebody who has a degree in physics does not necessarily have a degree in psychology.
Right.
And if
what does psychology have to do with it?
well, why do you think they call the study of supernatural phenomenon parapsychology? Okay? It is it has to do with human minds.
It's
My
not
point
all
is,
called parapsychology, though.
excuse me. My point is that is not necessarily his field, and I'm not going to say any more than that until I've looked into it.
Okay,
well, I don't know more.
Okay, exactly. Well, I just think it's interesting because
excuse me.
Because
There's
they're familiar.
Thomas, hold on.
Okay.
It is also important to note that a lot of people who are not physicists at all, but are merely purveyors of the paranormal, have leaped on the quantum physics bandwagon in order to try to legitimize the things they wanted to believe all along. Deepak Chopra is an excellent example of a total idiot who has latched onto quantum physics to try to justify his weird supernatural claims. He hasn't got the slightest clue what quantum physics is about.
Okay, well, could I ask?
So it's important to be really sure that the person talking about quantum physics really knows what they're talking about.
Right. Well, that's why I picked Brian Josephson, because he won a Nobel Prize.
I will look it up.
Okay, but I also think as far as psychology is definitely a soft science. Physics is a hard science.
It doesn't matter. If Brian Josephson doesn't know anything about psychology, he shouldn't be commenting on parapsychology.
Okay, well, I think he was commenting on paranormal phenomena, not parapsychology. But I'd like to ask the gentleman...
Well, there's like psychic things happening that have nothing to do with brains? Is that what you're telling me? There's like psychic things out happening just on their own?
I didn't say psychic.
All right, fine.
Okay.
What else you got?
The guy on your right there?
My right?
Yeah.
That would be
I wanted to ask him if he would agree with that statement that Deepak Chopra is a total idiot.
I've never heard anything that he has had to say, and I've read very little of his stuff, but I've seen many TV appearances of, and he seems to just be a guy who is out there selling supernaturalism and being a self-styled media guru and loving the celebrityhood of it.
If I must, I will qualify my statement by saying he's a total idiot as far as quantum physics is concerned.
Oh,
okay?
so
he cites quantum physics to justify his supernatural beliefs without having the slightest understanding of what quantum physics is all about.
I'll tell you what he is good at. I'll tell you what he is good at.
So if he doesn't have the slightest understanding of what quantum physics is about,
then he shouldn't refer to it in order to justify his supernatural beliefs.
Then I shouldn't be able to find an established quantum physicist who has established his reputation and his understanding of quantum physics who says that Deepak Chopra has a strong grasp of quantum physics.
You can find one of just about any kind of person you want. The question is, does the general consensus of scientists in physics, does it agree with what these guys are saying? If it doesn't, then it is highly questionable.
I don't think it necessarily bears on it. But quantum physics...
Okay, so what you're saying is that the people who believe these things that you find exciting are somehow specially qualified to say that it's true, but everybody else in physics, their opinion doesn't matter?
No. No.
What's your point?
My point is that I think that the reason why people use quantum physics a lot is because with things like the uncertainty principle, the idea of determinism is taken out of physics. And so it opens up more possibilities. In the words of Stephen Hawking, a particle can travel faster than the speed of light. It can be in two places at once. It can travel out of a black hole. I think that it's obvious why people who are trying to understand what they think that they've experienced as paranormal phenomena would draw on something like quantum physics.
Yes, but if they don't really understand it, then quantum physics is not really a justification for them claiming that what they thought they experienced was really something.
And it's real interesting that you're quoting somebody.
We have a science teacher here.
Okay.
Well, it's real interesting that you're quoting Stephen Hawking, who's an atheist, to back up your claim. And as far as having some guy out there who has a Nobel Prize, you know,
which
so what?
Stephen Hawking doesn't. And Stephen Hawking's theories can't be tested.
Okay.
And yours can?
Period.
Yours can.
Why were you? Well, I'm curious. Why were you quoting him? If he's not pretty useful in this, why are you bothered?
As an authority on physics on quantum.
So he is an authority on physics now. Interesting, because a second ago you were saying, you know, he basically his opinion didn't really matter.
He's an atheist who was an authority on physics.
And as far as his theories cannot be tested, that's why he'll never win a Nobel Prize.
The fallacy you're making is called the appeal to authority. Because somebody has
Thomas, really, you have established a pattern now of refusing to let us respond.
Right.
If you don't be quiet while we respond to what you say, we're going to have to let you go. Okay?
Sorry. Okay.
Go ahead, John.
And this fallacy, the appeal to authority, basically, just because somebody has a Nobel Prize in something, you know, that doesn't mean they're right about everything. And,
I agree.
And people can easily stray out of the field that they study.
Definitely.
And as far as being an expert in quantum mechanics, we got an expert in quantum mechanics sitting in the studio who's working on the technical side of things, who's written textbooks on it, and he's an atheist. So,
in fact, he's holding the whiteboard
he's
that
holding
has
the board with your name on it.
Shows all the people that are on the phone
So,
lines
you know
right
what,
now.
fine, go ahead and show us a long list and quote a bunch of names.
Okay.
But that's not going to prove anything.
Okay, you're right.
What's going to prove something is if you come up with some evidence to support your view, and you haven't.
Absolutely.
And as far as Deepak Chopra being an idiot, I'm sure that there's some things he can do well, but I have to agree with Jeff. When it comes to talking about this subject, he is a total, complete imbecile.
Okay.
And I think that the reason a lot of these media guru types like Chopra, as you say, latch on to quantum physics as a way in which to try to explain things in life that they don't really understand how they work, is because they understand that quantum physics is this thing that is just completely over the heads of the majority of the population. And
right, so they can get away with it.
When Deepak Chopra comes out and he talks about quantum this and quantum that, everyone thinks, ooh, he's so knowledgeable and he knows all this stuff I don't know.
Thanks for your call, Thomas. We do have a truncated show today. We're going to have to move on.
Yeah, we got 3 more guys ahead of you, but
bye-bye.
We'll look up, what's his name, who won the Nobel Prize.
We'll look up Brian Josephson and also this Candace Pert. Okay, that's, you know, when it troubles me when people say, well, you know, this is one of the best known physicists, and then they give me a name that I've never heard of, and then they mention Hawking in passing, and when we point out that Hawking was an atheist, then all of a sudden he's not, you know, all of a sudden he doesn't. His opinion doesn't
matter now
because he's not an atheist, and so we're going to find some excuse not to take what he says seriously. Okay, let's go to Russell.
Hi there.
Hi, Russell.
How you doing?
I have some information on Candace Pert for you.
All right, let's hear the information on Candace Pert.
I didn't have time to research her too deeply, but I did find out that she co-authored a book with, guess who?
Deepak Chopra.
You got it.
All right. Yeah?
It's called Molecules of Emotion, Why You Feel the Way You Feel.
Oh, my goodness.
And I didn't find anything specific on that, but the Skeptic's Dictionary, of course, has some good dirt on Deepak Chopra, including the quote that says, if you have happy thoughts, then you make happy molecules.
Happy molecules.
He's one of these guys.
That sounds like a cereal.
Like auras and fields of energy that people have.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so
I love it.
Yeah, we will still. I mean, that's an interesting tidbit that Candace Pert has worked with Chopra on a book. You'd think that if she had a what did this guy claim about her, that she was
like one of the
famous
the most famous neurologist in the whole world.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you would think that if she was a famous neurologist, she would know that the claim that that molecules can be happy
stupid.
She would know that was completely stupid, and she would correct Deepak Chopra rather than writing a book with him. But we'll check into her background.
Jeff, if all the carbon atoms bond together and they make a little U shape like that, and there's some other like oxygen molecules up here, that would be a happy molecule. It makes a little smiley face.
All right. Thanks very much, Russell.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
That was our own Russell Glasser. And on one we have AD. AD?
Nate.
Hello?
Hey.
Nate.
Nate? Okay.
They totally misunderstood your
Yeah,
name.
they mangled your name. What's up, Nate?
Brother Maynard, bring me the holy football of Antioch.
All right, thank you, Nate.
The holy hand grenade.
Bye-bye. Then let's go to Joe on 2. Joe?
Hello?
Hi, Joe.
No, I'm not Joe.
Who are you?
I'm Steven.
Steven.
How you
Guys,
doing?
what's
Okay, there's something going on in the control room,
Oh, I
but
know,
Steven, we'll take your call anyway. What's up, man?
Thanks. Hey, I was just wondering if you guys had seen on Metro and State this morning's paper about the church packed with visitors to Virgin Mary statue.
No, an earlier caller referred to that.
It says a
That's
thing
in Georgetown, right?
Let's see. I don't know. I thought it said East Austin, but it could be.
But
It's,
what the earlier
Sacred
caller
Heart
said.
Catholic Church.
What the earlier caller said was that it was in Austin. They moved it to Georgetown for some reason.
Oh,
and put
I
it in a
see.
plastic
Oh, yeah,
box,
here
and
it
it
is,
bleeds
yes.
blood.
No.
It cries blood.
East Austin is what it says. It's a Sacred Heart Catholic Church.
Uh-huh.
On yesterday, at least. Anyway, I just wondered.
Road trip.
Yeah.
I think we got to
It's a
check
road
that out.
trip.
Yeah.
Road trip. Actually, it says here, it's said to have shed tears, but in the article, nobody actually claimed to have seen it shed tears.
So it's just a rumor.
Yes.
It's a rumor that at one point somebody who we don't know what it is saw it shed blood.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
And it's now enclosed in some sort of glass casing.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so.
Oh, boy.
And a lot of people who saw it shook like crazy, it says here.
Yeah, with laughter.
Yeah, they do that in fundamentalist churches. That doesn't mean anything either.
Exactly. I
they
paid
d-
for to see
They
that.
do it in mental
so.
hospitals.
Yeah.
All right. Well, talk to you later.
All right, thanks very much for your call. Okay, that reminds me of something. I forgot to bring this in. I'm kicking myself. In the Chronicle this week, in the day trips section, you know what it talks about? It talks about the Freethought monolith in Comfort. And gives a little synopsis of the story about how a local guy found out that the town was founded by freethinkers from Germany who came over to the United States because they didn't like the oppressive religious regime in their own country. And they founded a community where for the first 50 years they had no churches. And how money was collected, and the local town council approved the monument, and the state approved the plaque, and everything was going fine. And then all of a sudden, some local Christians found out that freethinker equals atheist, and they went completely ballistic, and they hamstrung the efforts to get it completed. And so now it's this unfinished big limestone block in the park. And this was in the Chronicle as a thing to go check out. But 2 points. First of all, in the article they say, oh, well, you know, the locals are wrong anyway because the freethinkers, the German freethinkers weren't really atheists. They were just people who thought that the concept of God was irrelevant. Guys, Chronicle, if there's anybody from the Chronicle listening, if you don't believe in God for whatever reason, then you're an atheist.
Yeah.
And second, there was a recent photograph. Some local a-holes, pardon my French, have taken a little, you've probably seen these in people's gardens, a little wooden picture of a little boy with his pants down, peeing, right, picture from behind, and put this up against the monument. So there's a little kid peeing now on the Freethinker monument, honoring the founders of their own community.
I think that's great. I think they should leave it because I think that way people can come out there and they can see a clear-cut example of Christian intolerance and ignorance.
And
it's wonderful.
And on the other side of the monument, there's a Bugs Bunny with a little message about, you know, how powerful God is written on the back of it, leaning up against
Bugs
the
Bunny.
monument.
That's the
Bugs
best
Bunny,
they could do.
That's the best they could do is a Bugs Bunny cutout leaning against the monument, and you turn the Bugs Bunny around, and it says something about God controlling the weather. It's weird.
What's up, God?
Anyway.
He must have taken a wrong
So
turn
that's,
in Albuquerque.
I was reminded by this because that's also worth a road trip. I actually want to go, and like pick up that little peeing child and carry it around town and photograph it at other interesting sites.
Like churches?
Okay, let's go to our next call.
Joe.
Now,
Hello,
are you
Joe.
sure that I want to go to line 2?
Joe?
All right.
Okay.
Joe?
Yes.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Say, I've got some more information here on Candace Pert.
Okay.
Apparently, she does have some pretty impressive credentials.
And what are they?
Well, she has a Ph.D. in neuroscience from Johns Hopkins, and she was at one time the chief of brain chemistry at the NIH. But then she has some interesting things that happened to her in her life.
Uh-huh.
And in the 1985, she resigned from the NIH, and she said it was due to 3 life-changing events that happened in her.
Oh, so she had a religious conversion.
Yeah, one of them was the death of her father.
Uh-huh.
The other one was that she discovered the healing power of dreams. And her third was her embrace of the Christian faith.
Okay, so she rejected her teaching in order to embrace beliefs that she found appealing because of her emotional situation.
Yeah, well, she's a research professor at Georgetown Medical Center, and there's tons of stuff about her on the internet. But one thing that I found interesting was that one of the reasons that she resigned her position is she was excluded from something called the Lasker Award, and that her reputation among her colleagues is more of a feminist troublemaker than a pathfinder.
Yeah.
And she's got a whole bunch of books out. I don't know about that one with Chopra or whatever.
Yeah, people who think they have something to say often do have a lot of books out. All right.
Anyway,
Well,
I thought you might be interested.
yeah, thanks very much. I'm not at all surprised.
Okay.
Appreciate the information.
Bye-bye. Thanks for your call, Joe. Yeah, I mean, if you get your PhD and then you undergo a religious conversion and decide to stop believing all the stuff that you believed when you earned your PhD, well, it sort of undermines the validity of the PhD. I've just received information that says we are going to be on till 10:30. They're going to give us the whole time. I guess the class has been canceled or delayed or something. So, yeehaw! We'll keep going. And
Regular show.
If any of you who we cut off a little earlier than you liked, if you want to call back, we'll talk to you some more. Let's go to Ray on 4. Ray?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Ray?
Good, good. Jeff, what's the name of the gentleman to the left of you?
To my left, that is John Koontz.
I'm sorry?
John Koontz.
Oh, okay. This message is for John. John, I had a question for you. Earlier, roughly maybe 20, 25 minutes ago, you had mentioned something about in the Bible how it tells Christians to disobey the government. I'm just curious where you got that reference from.
I'm not going to go through and quote all scriptures and stuff. I don't waste my time memorizing that stuff. But the whole gist of the thing is to believe in the God above everything else. That is what the first commandment's about.
But it doesn't tell you to. I mean, you can still believe in God and obey His authority.
Can I jump in? If you wanna, it seems to me that if you wanna find out what it says in the Bible, go ahead and ask Christians. Okay,
right.
And I'll take Christians at their word for it when I go to various websites from organizations that are protesting the Supreme Court ruling, or doing like that one church in Philadelphia has done recently, where the one church where they decided they weren't going to pay their deduct for the taxes for their employees anymore, because their church belonged to God and not to man, and so the IRS is like trying to collect millions in unpaid taxes from these guys. They have biblical justifications for their rejection of the authority of the government. It's not our place to explain those objections to you. Go find those people and find out what they say.
And as far as the Bible goes, if you read through the Old Testament, and I don't remember the names of all the different battles and towns, because quite honestly, I've read it and I've studied it, but it made me so sick to my stomach to read it, because it's such a disgusting bloodbath that I really didn't want to even remember it. But you go through and you read through there how the chosen people come through,
Joshua?
and Joshua's particularly obnoxious book.
That's where they go on like that
The
whirlwind tour.
37 whirlwind tour of death and destruction.
Yeah, how many cities was it? Like 30?
37, I can't remember, it's 30, it's in the 30s. But anyway, the point is that some of these people were being destroyed for no other crime than that they wouldn't worship the one true God. Now, I'm not talking about all Christians wanting to ignore the laws of the land, because clearly that's not the case. But I said, the evangelical fundamentalist types will decide that the laws of the land do not apply to them. And I was looking through the paper I thought I had it, but there recently had been some quotes from people like Pat Robertson and fairly important leaders in the religious right movement, basically encouraging people to ignore. And in fact, that's what happened in the Santa Fe prayer case.
Yeah, it was more than that.
The kid was told not to do the prayer thing and did it anyway. Why? Because if you honestly believe that nonsense in the Old Testament and the rest of it, the New Testament too, and you really think your God's that important, then you're going to be willing to break the laws when you think the laws conflict with your religious belief. So I stand by what I said.
And also, in the case of Robertson, when the Supreme Court ruling came down about the school prayer thing, on the 700 Club on national television, he called for essentially an open revolt against, the Supreme Court and its rulings and this law. He just said Christians need to rise up, and that's. There's a word for that, sedition, I think.
You guys have, don't get me wrong, you guys have some good points. What I'm really trying to address, though, and I agree with you on a lot of those issues, but I think what you're doing is you're criticizing what other people think of the Bible, opposed to the Bible itself.
Oh, now, well, we can segue into a criticism of the Bible itself if you'd care to play with us.
But the thing is everybody has a different interpretation, a different philosophy, and what you're doing is you're finding out maybe some of those wackos out there who'll go to the extreme to rebel against the governing authorities.
Okay.
But however, and I'll stop and let you talk.
Go ahead.
But I would really like to just read one paragraph that comes right out of Romans, if you would allow me to do that.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, sure, why not?
You don't mind?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is coming out of Romans chapter 13, and this is the New International Version. Okay.
The butcher.
Yeah, the highly cleaned up one. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me continue here. It says, everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. So basically, it's telling you here, if you're rebelling against the governing authorities, you're pretty much rebelling against God.
Okay.
So really, a Christian would not want to do that. But everybody's got their philosophy. They read something and they go off and interpret it in their own way. But really, if you're my whole question is this: you're saying that the Bible. I wish we can kind of go back and maybe tape it over again or listen to it again, but your attack was directly in the Bible. It says you're supposed to disobey the government, and I'm having trouble finding that.
You just said it. You just said it right now. You just proved my very point. Because what you just got through saying was, which you should have just stopped a while back and left me not being able to quote the Bible. You just quoted a passage that says the authority comes from God. Well, the authority in this country doesn't come from God. The authority in this country comes from we the people. That's what the Constitution says. There's no talk about God in the Constitution. And so, if we the people decide that we're going to not have, through our legal system, which clearly happened, let's say in the Santa Fe case, all right, we have a clear-cut case where our secular authority and our government, we the people have decided there will be no pre-game football prayers. And yet, that child went ahead and was prompted, of course, by her parents and ministers and all the rest of it.
Their parents are ministers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But at any rate, was prompted by other people to go ahead and break the law and go ahead and do what she thought anyway, in accordance with what you just read out of your Bible. So
that authority comes from God and not from a secular government.
What's the name of that? What was the name of that scripture again? Write that down.
It was in Romans.
It was Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 1 and 2, actually. I'm sorry, did you hear that?
Yeah, it was in the studio. Go ahead.
Okay, it was
Romans 13, 1 through what?
Verse 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay, just beginning.
And thank you.
But John,
that's perfect for making my point. And I want to read one more thing.
John started out talking about this whole idea that the authority for governance comes from gods as opposed to from people. And when he read the story earlier about Prince Charles saying some wacky thing about the limitations of science and being rightly rebuked by Richard Dawkins.
Now, I fully agree that many Christians will act within the law as much as possible, and we see that with the religious right trying to take over the Republican Party, which they clearly did, and trying to take over the rest of the country. And here's a quote from Jerry Falwell. Our crowd needs to get into the battle, keep their mouths shut, and help this man, meaning George Bush, win. And he's doing that because he thinks that Prince George is going to be able to bring in some of the programs that he thinks are important for, moral majority things that he supports. So when you say I'm criticizing certain people, you're darn right I'm criticizing certain people, because I do not want to live in a country where the moral majority types have been able to get a control on the laws of the land so that we have to enact out their sick Old Testament fantasies, because I'm not willing to do that, and I will use whatever legal means possible to stall that and fight that, because that whole biblical view on things is just obnoxious.
I know what you're saying. As far as criticizing people, that's not the subject I'm talking about. I'm sure you and I could probably agree certain individuals out there who claim to be Christians are pretty wacko. I'm sure we could both agree to that. I think we're missing the point. What I'm trying to talk to you about is the fact that you said something about trashy Bible and how it tells you to rebel from the governing authorities. But before you go, on one note, you're saying that the Bible completely tells you to do that. It says, just completely disobey the government. And then another note, you're agreeing that God has, or you're saying that the Bible says this, not that you agree with that, but that God is saying that he claimed that he started the government, or he ordained the government, okay?
Yeah.
So if that's true, then why would God tell somebody to disobey the government which he established?
Look, you work it out with the fundamentalists who are making those kinds of claims, okay? It's not our responsibility to explain what various wackos are doing when they claim that their belief leads them to oppose the decisions of our secular government. And that has been our point all along. But before you go, while we're on the subject of the Bible, we have an amusing little Bible punishment quiz. Would you like to take a question from our quiz?
I tell you what. Let me finish one more question, and then we'll continue. How about that?
All right.
Okay. I think we're still missing the point. What I'm trying to say is, you're talking about how the Bible says to disobey, not people, not a preacher, not a minister. Let's take everybody else out of the picture. It's you and the Bible.
Well, I think specifically
no, forget us and the Bible. We are mildly familiar with the thing, but generally we take what Christians tell us is in there at face value, because you'd think that people who actually believe that stuff would know what it said.
But what you're talking about is other men's interpretation of the Bible.
So what?
The Bible itself.
What is there
fine.
except for men's interpretations of the Bible?
No, but that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is, what John clearly said is that in the Bible, not somebody else, but in the Bible, it talks about disobeying the government.
So what you're saying, is we have to come up with a passage that you wouldn't. No, please, Ray, hang on. Okay. We're getting into that situation again. You got to let us respond. Okay. So what you're saying is you are challenging us to come up with a passage from the Bible that you would interpret as a command to go against the government. That's what you're saying. Because if we say anything else other than a passage that you would interpret that way, you're going to say, well, that's just somebody else's interpretation. And that's what's so incredibly stupid about Christianity. Okay. Because it's all interpretation. The only Bible passages that there are that are not subject to anybody's interpretation are Bible passages nobody has ever read.
Okay.
Now take our Bible quiz, will you?
Okay, hold on, 1 second.
No, you've had your one extra question. We're going to ask you one thing and then let you go.
Hey, you guys.
What did Jesus say?
You're quoting something that you
What did Jesus say? Okay, Ray, you can either answer the question or you can say goodbye.
Okay.
What did Jesus say happens to those who have premarital sex? Is it A, nothing? The Lord does not condone this, but he doesn't punish people for doing it. B, frequent people who frequently engage in premarital sex are struck with venereal disease. C, they cannot enter heaven, so they must wind up in hell. Or D, they have difficulty coping in loving relationships. Which of those is the thing that Jesus said happened to people who have premarital sex?
Okay, are you
Which one?
Scripture at this point with the answer?
Excuse me?
Are you quoting the scripture at this point? What's the correct answer?
We're about to.
Okay.
We're going to justify which of those 4 answers is the correct one with a chapter and verse.
Okay.
Which one is it?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
The correct answer is C. They cannot enter heaven, so they must wind up in hell. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortionists shall inherit the kingdom of God.
That's from
1 Corinthians 6, chapters 9 to 12.
Okay.
Thanks for your call. Bye-bye.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Okay. Did you read anywhere in the Bible when you took that one verse out? Did you read anywhere else in there about forgiveness?
So what you're telling me is the Bible can say the most horrific things. Jesus himself can pronounce the most horrific punishments, eternal damnation and torture forever, as long as somewhere else in the Bible it says, oh no, but you forgive people. And then it's okay?
Forgive and you will be forgiven.
Yeah, right. Think and you'll not be an idiot. Thanks for your call, Ray. Man.
The point that...
What ability to... What mental gymnastics?
Well, it's all about... Grief. Yeah, well, specifically, I think earlier, John, you were talking about just the first commandment of the generally accepted 10 Commandments, where it says, thou shalt have no other gods before me, which is what you were... Which is where he was trying to get at, where does it say, ignore the laws of the land? Well, it's very easy to take a commandment from a God that says, thou shalt have no other gods before me, and use that when it is convenient to you, if you're a believer, to say, oh, well, you've just passed a law that I find inconvenient. Yeah. Well, I'd rather just do what my God says and ignore this if it cramps my style.
If you believe all that nonsense and actually want to support that nonsense in the Bible, Old Testament stuff, then you are going to come in conflict with in a nation where the laws are derived from the people. Yep. And civil liberties and stuff like that are important.
Right.
It doesn't fit.
The Bible is the ultimate authority and not the government of the nation in which you live and the
never
government in which you participate. Why then, it's not a surprise that a lot of these Christian extremists do things like calling for a open rebellion against our legal system. Okay, let's go to Philip. Philip?
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Hi, Philip.
How are you doing?
I have 2 comments and then a quick question, then I'll go ahead and drop off if you wish.
All right.
One is, since you've been watching the show for the first time last week, you've completely exploded a lot of stereotypes I've had about atheists. I really appreciate that. It's kind of a learning. I'm kind of learning, atheist friendly, but learning more. 2, the comment you made, the gentleman in the middle, last week was like really big when you said that atheists were not oblivious to the wonders of nature and beautiful, incredible happenings. That kind of made me click, like, so many of us do attribute anything that's incredible to, must have been made by somebody else rather than just this and a beautiful event. And then one last question, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not digressing in your program, but
that's okay.
I got up kind of a little bit late, is I'm missing where this quantum mechanics and quantum physics, if you could just explain, and I'll drop off, if you could explain, I was having trouble deciding which side you were on or whose side, or how it applied to your thinking. In a layman's term, I'm not mechanically inclined.
Here's the important thing for a layman to know, okay? Quantum mechanics is weird. It's incredibly counterintuitive because we're talking about things happening down at a scale where things behave in ways that are not the way we're used to them happening at this macro scale that we live in. Okay? And so a lot of opportunistic shysters take advantage of the weirdness of quantum physics in order to try to justify the beliefs they're trying to sell. Okay? So the important thing to do when you hear, say, some guy like Deepak Chopra say that, oh, well, if you think happy thoughts, you make happy molecules, all right? And he justifies his whole worldview on this incredibly skewed misinterpretation of quantum physics, right? It's important to realize that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, okay? The people who understand quantum physics are the people who actually work with it and study it. It's pretty much like plumbing in that regard.
Okay, what's quantum mechanics?
Oh God, we're not going to be able to explain quantum mechanics to you right now.
So you're saying that people
a very, very quick. Maybe you could do this better than me. Can you?
It deals. Okay, I don't want to turn into a science class. So.
Well, he's a science teacher. He should be able to do this better than me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good show to talk about science.
Quantum mechanics deals with this the study of very, very small subatomic particles and the material that makes up the universe, the building blocks of matter, that protons and neutrons and electrons, if you remember those from high school. Well, that's not it. It goes down lower than that. And when it gets down lower than that, into the quarks and on all the different subatomic particles that exist, it becomes very complex and very counterintuitive. There's very weird things that go on at that kind of very small subatomic level. It's really fascinating subject, but it can be very difficult and very overwhelming.
So that is what you gentlemen, just so I understand, that's what you gentlemen support as for how things are about now.
Well, the quantum mechanics is important part of understanding quantum mechanics is an important part of understanding cosmology, the study of the large-scale structure and evolution of the universe, as well as chemistry and physics. It's all tied together, and it's important. It's an important part of it, but it is very complex, and it's the cutting edge of where science is. It's where the big discoveries are being made. In physics is going to be in quantum mechanics,
right? And it's not, you use that B word again. It's not a question of belief on our part, right? Of like we needed something to latch onto, so we grabbed onto quantum mechanics, and so we explain everything with that. It's a question of a basic understanding of what science is about and how it works, right? These are guys looking at things, formulating hypotheses, doing experiments to test the hypotheses, and then either keeping either elevating the hypothesis to a theory where this appears to be a description of the way things actually work, or else dispensing with the hypothesis and trying something else. Okay? We understand how that works, and with that basic understanding of science, you can look at what scientists actually say is going on with a modicum of trust. Okay? We take the word of scientists for what is going on scientifically. And that's what scientists are telling us, and all us non-scientists can do is try to grasp it as best we can.
Okay, one last comment, gentlemen, then I'll definitely drop off. Is that I always try and, before talking about anything, have to listen to whoever's talking about it to be able to comment on it. And I was actually telling some friends, I was watching the Atheist Community Show, and they're almost looking at me like, why are you opening that dark black book? What are you doing? I was like, well, the only way to comment on that is to listen and understand and develop an appreciation. And even on the Christian things, if I'm surfing through, I'll just stop and see what they're doing. But
I certainly do too. I oftentimes wind up yelling at my radio.
But it's refreshing.
Yelling at my television.
I get a big kick out of Trinity Broadcasting.
Well, it's refreshing that you're not flashing a number up, sending a check to, or selling a little magic vial of water that's supposed to change your life. So. But I'll drop off, gentlemen. You have a good day.
Well, thanks for your call. And
appreciate
it's folks like that. That guy's is apparently not an atheist, but atheist friendly. Folks like that, if you like, the Atheist Community of Austin meets at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at 10:30 right after this show, and come on down and socialize. And we have a lot of discussions about the latest breakthroughs in science, about the latest theories to account for things, about philosophy. I mean, and I guess it sounds kind of deep, but we're mostly pretty smart people, and it's not
if we
that
do say
hard.
So ourselves.
I think a lot of people sell themselves short by thinking, well, that subject's got to be too hard, and I don't consider myself an incredibly smart person. I'm just I make a habit of trying to actually think about stuff rather than throwing it out because it looks like too difficult. Let's go to what line was I just on? I was on one.
Now we're on 2.
Okay, let's go to 2. Gilbert?
No, it's David.
David?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you guys were familiar with the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail by Lawrence Gardner. I thought it was fascinating as a historian.
I've heard the title.
What's it about?
Well, it's an ongoing study that I've made for the past 15 years about the lineage, supposedly the lineage of Jesus.
So is this your book?
Come again?
Is this your book?
Oh, no.
The book is about the study that you've made?
No, this Holy Blood, Holy Grail, the hidden lineage of Jesus.
Okay.
In other words, what they're saying that he was married, and that the wedding at Cana was actually his wedding to Mary Magdalene, and she produced children. And at the fall of Jerusalem, they went into exile into southern France and started an alternative Christian movement that actually over a period of years became alienated to Roman Christianity. And the struggle of these two various Christian groups, one basically the followers of Paul, and the other group, the followers of the bloodline. And I thought it was a fascinating story. I was just wondering if you guys had investigated that at all.
No.
I've heard of theories like that.
Come again?
But in my understanding is that the historical evidence that Jesus ever existed in the first place is pretty scarce.
Well, yeah, I can understand that.
So I'd be a little skeptical of any claims that, not only was that information, that scarce information wrong, but here's the actual truth.
Okay.
And where's that information coming from? I'd like to know. Maybe it says that in that book. I've written it down.
Yeah, write it down and check it out. No, what is interesting to me is the how the church branded these people as heretics, and the type of treatment that the heretics were given, and the amount of the amount of
persecution.
Persecution and propaganda and everything else that came with it. If you study the Albigean crusade that started around the early part of 1200s and lasted for about a decade, they killed millions of these heretics. Well, I say millions, but I'm sure the number was high. But it was, I don't know, I think it was a fascinating study. You should look into it.
Okay.
And how the Roman Church actually established their authority by wiping out anyone that disagreed with them, whether they were Christian or not. And I think
that's pretty much par for the course for just about any religion.
Well, it's just, how the Roman group seemed to capitalize on their theories about what is. What it boils down to is this other Christianity didn't adhere to the philosophy that Jesus was the Son of God, that was born of a virgin and all that. They gave him a very human context and gave him more of a social message rather than a salvation message. And
that's very interesting. We're going to have to let you go because we're running out of time in the show here.
Well, look into it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Holy
Bye-bye.
Blood, Holy
Bye-bye.
Grail. That's fascinating.
Okay. Casey.
Hi. I'd like to say that I really support your show, and I'd like to learn more about this.
Atheist Community of Austin?
Yeah.
Well, we meet at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop every morning except for the first Sunday of the month. Every Sunday morning except for the first Sunday of the month. And that's at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop near the corner of 5th and Lavaca.
And also, maybe Vic can put our website URL up again, and you can, if you have access to the web,
There you go. You can go there, and that's all about us.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, you can call that voicemail number.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks very much. That was
Casey.
Right.
Now we're up to Drew.
Drew?
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey, just wanted to point out a point that your Christian friend was trying to make there before when he was trying to throw play the javelin scripture throwing contest. And you guys kind of stepped over his point a little bit, but what he was really doing was making the argument for the concept that Christian dogma has so many contradictions in it. A point he said was that, first of all, when he was saying, well, if these Christians believe that the Christian authority comes from God, not the people, and then there's a passage in their book that says you should disobey the law when it comes into conflict. Basically, what he was saying is that they believe in a contradiction, because both the highest authority comes from their God in the first place, but yet there could be a situation where your government is telling you to do something that contradicts
that.
Well,
he never was willing to accept that there was a passage that said that it was okay to go against the government in the first place.
Right.
But he was playing that contradiction game because basically, we read him the passage that said if you are effeminate, you'll go to hell, right? 1 Corinthians 6, 9 to 10. Effeminate people are amongst the huge laundry list of people that Jesus said are going to burn in hell forever.
Unless, of course, they get forgiven.
And his response was, well, didn't you see the pastors about forgiveness? Well, dude, you know, what does that mean then? I mean, either they're going to hell forever or they're not, right? And it doesn't say unless they're forgiven, because I mean, isn't everybody supposed to be forgiven?
Yeah, I mean, and what's just the whole idea of eternal punishment for anything at all, you know, doesn't seem like something that would come from the mind of, you know, a really good guy.
If you're effeminate and God forgives you, you're still effeminate, right? So that's not saying I have a contradictory passage that says effeminate people don't have to go to hell. Doesn't. You know, it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is, in the Bible, it says effeminate people are going to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, they're trying to take advantage of the incredible internal consistencies of the Bible, as if they were a strong point for their religion, because they can always turn to one that says something not quite so nasty.
Exactly, and in doing so, they completely gloss over, ignore the point that they're arguing for the contradictory nature of their dogmas.
It's like these Ten Commandments book covers up in Dallas that just came out, right? This Christian group came in and said, we're going to give these school kids Ten Commandments book covers because that'll help them be better people. But what did they have to do? They had to edit the Ten Commandments. They had to take a man's wife off the list of his property when it says don't covet, right? They took the reference to wives out of there, so wives wouldn't be property anymore. Yeah. Good grief.
Yeah. Right.
Well, that was just my comment, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for your call.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
Bye-bye, Drew. And Michael. Michael?
Hello.
Hello.
I guess we lost him.
Michael?
Hello?
Hi. Sorry about that. I didn't hit the button right.
It's okay.
What you got for us?
Well, I noticed earlier in the show you were talking about Deepak Chopra, and I was wondering, have you ever seen him speak before?
Yes,
on television, yeah.
I've seen him interviewed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's a lunatic.
Yep.
He hasn't a clue what he's talking about.
Certifiable.
I have a completely different view of him.
Of course you do, because he says incredibly nice-sounding things. He seems like a nice fellow, and he says all these wonderful positive things, but the vast majority of it is complete and utter crud.
Right.
Well,
he has no idea what he's talking about.
From my experience, I have tried and read and experienced some of the stuff that he's talked about personally.
Yeah.
And I can vouch for him that
how do you explain
knows what he's talking about?
How do you explain that his views on quantum physics are just absolutely 100% different from the views of quantum physics held by actual physicists? How do you explain that? How is it that he can be talking about something that is true when the people who actually study that subject disagree with him?
Simple, because he knows more about quantum physics than you.
We're not talking about what he knows more than us.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what we think, dude. Yeah. What matters is what do physicists think. You're saying that Deepak Chopra knows more about quantum physics than physicists do?
In some cases,
he knows more about quantum physics than actual working scientists that study these particles?
Where does he get this knowledge?
Where has he been published?
Yeah,
what's he been published in?
Well, besides his own book.
Look, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out how a rocket works.
Well, but you do kind of have to be a rocket scientist to be able to build one that works. But to really be able to understand one that works.
But that's not what that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about,
No, we're talking about a
new. Hit a nerve with this Deepak Chopra stuff.
We're talking about a new field of physics.
Deepak Chopra followers out there.
We're talking about a new field of study in physics that is right now sufficiently vague and weird enough to where anybody out there who has bizarre supernatural concepts that they can package and sell to a credulous audience can latch onto this as a way of giving themselves some sort of scientific street cred. But it doesn't really mean that they know what they're talking about. Using lots of fancy jargon, doesn't make you a scientist, quite frankly, if you like what he says and if you think what he says makes a lot of sense, well, go see what the real physicists have to say and compare the two. And as far as, I understand when you say earlier on that you mentioned that you had experiences that sort of jibed with a lot of the teachings of Deepak
absolutely.
Chopra, and that these, and well,
And he's not the only one out there saying that. There's
I'm
plenty
afraid
others
you're
like
right.
that.
yeah, I mean, that,
It's a
unfortunately.
big business.
Yeah, it is a big business. The thing is, I'm sorry, it's just that I wanted to point out that, of course, all throughout history, you know, there have been purveyors of the paranormal and of religions and of various supernaturalist belief systems who say things, and inevitably there's going to be someone out there who says, oh, that just really spoke to me, I've experienced those things. You know, personal anecdotes and personal experiences that you've had, or that any individual has had, that have had some sort of emotional resonance with you, sure, that's a very common kind of human experience, but it doesn't
have that
point to...
experience too, if you open your mind to it.
Well, you know, I could open...
You've been programmed by society and by the public school system to think in an evolutionary fashion. Which
If we brainwash ourselves to see things as you do, then we will see things as you do. That is not much of a surprise. We're going to have to let you go now. Thank you, Michael, for your call.
Product.
And, but there's another...
For some reason, I'm not losing Michael.
That must be quantum flux.
Okay. Dude, you ever see those old Western movies where they have the guy in the wagon who comes into town selling snake oil?
Yeah.
Okay. You are one of the people that bought the snake oil, and of course you think that it's true. You're one of those. You're one of those folks. And I'll have to ask the guys in the control room to hang up on Michael because I can't get rid of him on my control box here.
Yeah, we have to move on to the next
Michael has quantum powers.
Yeah.
Vic, would you please hang up on line 1?
But there's an interesting point that Mark out there, our physicist in the control room, has made, is that what successful predictions has Deepak Chopra made?
This guy is telling us that we're just brainwashed by our public school system. Brainwashing by our public school system does not explain how actual working physicists are able to put together experiments that actually work and function as predicted, okay? Whereas Deepak Chopra, all he does is he sells platitudes, rakes in money for his books, and goes off happy. And of course, people that believe that stuff, people that have happy experiences and have read Chopra's books and they think that their happy experiences have to do with the happy molecules that Chopra thinks you're making, of course they think they've gotten something for their money, but you're all being ripped off.
Do we have time to take Angela?
I think we can just barely squeeze in Angela. Angela?
Yes.
Hi, what do you got for us?
I prefer not to speak to you.
All right.
Why did you call?
I have a reason. Would you get properly set there? I'd like to talk to John on the right.
Okay.
And I don't want you to speak.
It's our show, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't want you to speak.
The special treatment.
Let's go to. Let's go to Leland. No, we're not gonna. It's not gonna be like that on our show.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not gonna have.
I'm gonna have to get my own show, obviously.
Yeah, we have a way of handling.
My fans can call me without talking to these guys.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi. What do you got?
Well, I'll talk to anybody.
All right. We only got 3 minutes, so make it quick.
Okay. Real quick. I've caught your show several times in a row.
Yeah.
And I notice you always are repudiating the Bible. Do you ever go into Buddhist or the Baha'i religion? Or
when it comes up, we certainly
Tibetan
do.
Book of the Dead, or is it just mainly the Bible you're interested in repudiating?
Go ahead, guys.
Okay.
Go, John.
Let me tell you. The main reason why we end up talking about the Bible is because that's what's being shoved down our throats in this culture. If we were living in a different culture, if we were doing this show from Saudi Arabia, we'd all be dead. But
yeah, right. You'd be decapitated. Yeah, I got it.
In the couple of seconds that we could get on the air, we would be bashing Islam if that's what the thing that was being forced down our throats. And we always are open to somebody who's an expert on one of these other religions coming on the show and talking about some of its abuses and absurdities. So we're not just.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, we're not anti-Christians. We're anti-irrationalism.
Yeah, and it just happens to be that Christianity is our culture's rule.
A minute and a half. Let's see. Ed.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to
say something real quick, Ed.
Why do we have a dial tone?
I don't know why we have a dial tone.
Hello.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you guys might know the significance of the blood coming from the Mary's eyes. I've never heard of that. I mean, that's very bizarre. And the other thing is I wanted to let y'all know that there was a march yesterday for the Dr. Laura show.
How'd it go?
Yes.
Yeah, and they're going to have another one whenever it airs.
I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. I've been doing announcements of that.
I was in the shower, sorry.
And how did it go?
It went pretty well. I wasn't there, but I saw on the news.
Okay,
So-
great. Yeah, we know the significance of that, and I'll tell you after we say goodbye. Thanks for your call. The significance of the blood coming from the eyes of the Virgin Mary statue is that there isn't any blood coming from the eyes of the Virgin Mary statue. According to sources that we had call our show, that is just a rumor that nobody has ever come forward and said they actually saw it. So, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the way religion works, folks. It's pleasing-sounding rumors that people start taking as fact.
Yeah.
And that's true of Christianity, it's true of Islam, and it's true of that nitwit Deepak Chopra. Thanks very much for watching our show.
Yeah.
Atheists, come on down to the bagel shop. We'd love to meet and talk with you. Atheist-friendly people, too. Christians,
we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. Bye.
Bye.